I was going to say good day to everyone because I mean it is a global audience. So a good day to everyone and welcome to this session. It is we have a very distinguished set of panelists who will be talking about the IoT space and the IoT journey. Specifically, let me just first introduce Julio, who is from Device Authority, and he will be talking about IoT security and compliance. And this is a key question in the customer journey. Are people who have IoT devices? He will be followed very closely by Aubrey Wright, who is the MD of Handy AV, and his interest in this session and his topic will be public safety, and specifically public safety now being through with a background to Martin's law in the UK. And then we have Chad Brackelsberg, who is I've known him for a while, and I did say that he's one of the most professional people that I've ever had the privilege to work with. So he's going to be talking about remote weather stations and setting up remote weather stations, the IoT and the data, and again in terms of public safety, making sure that people who are hiking are able to have access to the latest weather information and stay safe. And then we have Ruban, who is a distinguished member of this panel, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and he will be talking about data integrity and quality, and just why we need to make sure that the right data is there to help them make the right decisions for a company. And then lastly but not least is Alan, who is an expert on everything, and he will be talking about business and value outcomes and how they are impacted by the use of the correct IoT and the management of the correct IoT. So just before I switch over to Julio, I just want to say, there are three phases to an IoT journey. One is discovery, knowing exactly what you have. And then the second part is the monitoring and the management of those devices, which is the second part of the journey. And then the third part is the security posture and the security provisioning and the certification around those devices. So we will be covering each one of those phases in this journey. So I am now going to hand over to Julio, and over to you, Julio. Let's start talking about IoT security.
Thank you, Bhupinder, and hello, everyone. So as Bhupinder said, I work with Device Authority. So I'm leading pre-sales engineering here in North America, the US and the Canada market. So today, we're going to be going to dive into a couple hot topics in the cybersecurity landscape. The first one, why non-human device identities are becoming increasingly very important. And number two, why device discovery and establishing device trust are essential requirements for today's compliance standards. So I want to take a second and ask you to think about the word identity. What comes to mind? Usually, people think about my driver's license or maybe my fingerprint, or even just the password that you use to join this webinar, as an example. For the last couple of decades, the cybersecurity industry has been completely focused on human identities. But the reality today is that humans actually are a vast minority on the internet right now. Just recently, I just attended to event where CyberArk was showing the new products, what's coming from this year. And they were saying today there are 109 machines to one human. So you can think about the scale of amount of devices, non-human identities that are out there, and the amount of humans that are actually responsible to monitor and support them. So we are officially living in the era of the invisible workforce. I'm talking about the non-human identities, or NHIs. So these are the billions of IoT sensors, OT devices, and more agentic AI. So, and the thing about this invisible workforce is that they are operating entirely on their own, right? They are processing massive amounts of data. They're making real-time physical decisions without any human intervention. Which brings us to what I think is the most critical question today, when we are talking or referring to cybersecurity. When a machine makes a decision that impacts your business, your physical infrastructure, or even human safety, how do you actually know you can trust it? So before we talk about device trust, let's think about how we get there, or how we got here. In the early days, when we were installing and provisioning IoT devices, this small IoT device was very basic. It was collecting data, let's say, for example, temperature value, sending that data to a server, and then a human will look at the dashboard and make a call based on that data or insights that were being collected from that sensor, right? But today, the convergence of AI and IoT has completely flipped that script. We are talking about agentic AI that doesn't answer any prompts, but actually pursues goals and objectives. For example, now we have OT devices in manufacturing plants dynamically adjusting chemical mixtures based on edge analytics. This is an incredible innovation, but it also introduces a terrifying attack surface. If a bad actor compromises an AIoT device or an AI agent, they aren't just stealing data. They are hijacking the actual decision-making process. You just can't secure this kind of environment the way that we used to do IT security, right? For instance, you cannot prompt an AI agent for a multi-factor authentication code. You cannot ask an industrial water pump to click on the squares containing traffic lights or a bicycle. This just doesn't work. These devices, they are headless. They don't have interfaces. Sometimes they don't even have a small screen that will tell you the status. So we need to find ways how to automatically secure those devices in a very proactive way. So how do we secure this in the invisible workforce? It actually starts before security. It starts with the discovery process. You cannot secure what you cannot see or what you don't actually know. In the traditional IT world, for example, you will issue a laptop, send it to an employee, log it in a spreadsheet, and you would have an idea where that laptop will be and who going to be the person operating that device. But in the world of AI and AIoT, environments are widely changing very dynamically. Virtual AI agents spin up, spin down in a matter of seconds. Smart sensors get plugged into factory networks by third-party vendors without IT even knowing. This creates a massive blind spot, which is what we call the shadow IoT and the shadow AI. If an unauthorized AI agent connects to your network and starts pulling data to train a model, or a rogue sensor starts feeding poison data into your autonomous system, you need to know instantly. That's why continuous automated device discovery is an absolute requirement for security. If your network does, if your network.
Just that one question, because I mentioned the CRA and I mentioned DORA as well. So I think discovery is always an issue. So whether it's IoT or IT, it has always been a big problem. And I think now that we have, so just you should talk about the CRA and the DORA bits and why we need to be compliant. I mean, what exactly will happen if people aren't compliant with those two regulations?
Well, the main thing is that in order to comply, you need to understand what you have out there, right? And trust those devices and the data that is coming from those devices, especially in this new AI, AIoT era where these agents are making decisions based on the data that is being sensed from the physical world. So if you don't trust the devices and you don't know what's out there, that how can you guarantee that you're complying to the standard, right? So there is a huge gap between the framework and what actually is installed out there and what devices are being sent back in terms of insights that are coming from the field.
Okay. No, because again, I think in terms of the customer journey, because I'm having talked with you before as well, discovery, And I think it's the continual compliance as well, because once you're compliant, you're not just going to stop being compliant. You have to continue to be compliant. So I just want it's that almost that kind of it's non-static these days. Security. I mean, the threats are evolving so quickly. So how can IoT fleets stay up to date with what is happening out there?
Well, that's when the same AI that we're trying to protect is helping us to do what you mentioned, that continuous assurance that these devices are actually compliant to the security policies and the security frameworks. So, for example, in our case, we have solutions that allow us to monitor these devices with a combination of multiple elements. So the first thing is the device identity, right? So we make sure that this device is trusted, is the one that we know, and is actually following and attached to a policy that is being managed by the platform. Second is the assurance that these software components that are running on the device are the ones that are being approved and authorized by the manufacturer. So this is available through SBOMs or software bill of materials. So this is something that can be checked and validated in real time. Just to give an example, if someone goes and install a new software code or downgrade a library, that's something that could be detected in real time and then tell you, hey, the library changed and this new one has a vulnerability that will be in a breach of the compliance of its standard.
Thank you very much for that, Julio. There are some questions coming through, and we will answer them at the back. Now, the question about trust. I mean, that is kind of paramount to what Aubrey is going to be talking about. It's how do you trust public spaces to keep people safe? So, Aubrey, over to you.
And hello there, live from London. Thank you very much for the introduction, Bhupinder. I'm pleased to be here. I'm going to be talking about our product, MAVAS, and that stands for Mass Audio Visual Alerting System. It is a mass communications solution to address the new law that's been passed last year here in the UK called Martin's Law. It's actually the Terrorism Protection of Premises Act of 2025. Now, this will be enforced in spring of 2027. The enforcement is quite severe, depending on the two tiers that have been created. One is a standard tier, which is up between 200 and 799 person occupancy of a building. And then beyond that, it's 800 plus. Now, the difference by one takes you from a potential fine of £10,000 per incident to 18 million, or 5% of your gross profit globally. So they're quite severe fines. Why is this needed? Well, a simple answer is that we've had so many examples of terrorism that has occurred here and has occurred elsewhere around the world. And the UK has decided to actually implement this. And it's named after Martin Hett, and his mother is the campaigner that has fought for this for several years. It's now in the 9th year, and next year will be the 10th anniversary of his passing when he died at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. So what is MAVAS? MAVAS to us is mass communication solution. It addresses problems that we're finding within premises where we've got a fragmented infrastructure. Certain elements have been brought in at certain times, all by independent installers. So there's been no structured, decision to actually bring this in and implement it as a connected solution. And that's really where we come in with MAVAS, because it's connecting that architecture. We're linking the audio, we're linking the visual, and we're also then linking via webhooks and APIs to actually control doors, access control systems, and work with high-end audio system, PA, VA type solutions. And
on that, Aubrey, I mean, you mentioned a lot of technologies there. So how are you bringing all these things together? Because we're talking about data aggregation and making the right decisions. So how are you bringing all these things together? It's different layers of this IoT. There's a lot of IoT involved in this.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Now we've got obviously our cloud infrastructure, our cloud service, which provides the enterprise management. So we can see from one dashboard the extent of an enterprise. It will then have a number of locations depending on the client, and it will then give you a quick traffic light indication of readiness or operation. Something's been triggered. So it then leads you to actually interrogate the system further to focus on where the problem is. We then synchronize this, and we have an edge server in every single location. Now that edge server is there to service and function to actually control the audio, to control the video, and to control the web hooks. So we then have that management control. Now, we also developed an app for the mobile phone. And if I just bring this up, you probably may be able to see that. Don't know, just there. We got it.
Slightly out of range there, Aubrey. But
I know. Yeah, it's basically they're pre-configured triggers, alerts. So behind each one we have an alert stack, and in the alert stack we then have the trigger to actually say we need to make the audio announcement that there is an issue. Yeah, and depending on the severity, one of these is a terror threat. So somebody's identified there is a terror threat, they would activate it, and that would then sound the audio system to say, this site is now in lockdown, there's been an incident, and please evacuate the building now. So that would activate. I can do this here right now, and I'll activate.
While you're doing that, Aubrey, I mean that is amazing in terms of the technology that you're putting together. What are you using for that data aggregation? You mentioned you had a cloud solution. So how exactly is all that data? Because there's a lot of data coming in from all of those devices.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually kind of shift all the noise and just kind of concentrate on what is needed to make the decisions to say, yep, there is something happening, and you now need to do something in an orderly fashion.
Yeah, this is why we have the premises edge server. The edge server is looking after the local function. So if we do lose connection to the internet, then it's going to run independently, and we know that is going to survive. It's connected obviously to the internal infrastructure. So we're connected to the Ethernet network. We're connected to the AV network. There are separate networks these days for the different technologies that are running side by side. And then we also have the Wi-Fi network and maybe Bluetooth as well. It will be part of that. The other side of this is that when we get to actually doing a trigger, as I'm demonstrating here, we're actually sending a signal to a particular screen with its position. That position may be facing away from the problem. We want to direct people from away from where the incident took place. So these screens are actually designed to actually point to different areas. So I can point it the other way if the screen is faced the other way. So at least we're sending people in the right direction. And that's the problem.
So a lot of sophisticated analysis going on in the background, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions for you, especially in safety, in context of public safety.
This is one of the things, though, Bhupinder, that in this product, it's not just the alerting, it's not just sending off the triggers. It is looking at the data that's collected. It's the logs. It's about accountability and, of course, compliance. And that's the thing that's going on behind the scenes here. So we have to do compliance for the users. So the users that are operating this system have got to be, we have to make sure that they are regularly trained. The Act dictates, it states that you have to have a policy, a procedure, and a process behind it.
Okay. So
Yep.
there is a full structure, and so it's not just something which has been written on the back of a packet.
No, no,
So there is a full set of a formal framework that sits behind this. Well, Aubrey, thank you very much for that. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
there's going to be a lot of questions about Mavat and the technologies that you're using. And I want to now move across to Chad, who is in the same kind of arena as you are. This is the public safety weather stations, remote weather stations, especially. So I know he's just come back from Utah, and that's another story. But it's clearly he likes being in remote spaces. So Chad, over to you, and the use of technology, IoT, and data in what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Bhupinder. Yeah, a little different look at it in this way, but I'm with the Utah Avalanche Center, and we provide avalanche forecasting education across the state of Utah here in the United States. And it's an interesting case in that avalanche forecasting requires a lot of data, a lot of understanding. There's a lot of art mixed in with the science of it for people to really understand, complex things like how the snow is changing on a day-to-day basis, but also complex mountain meteorology. So one of the things we do to help with this is to deploy remote mountain weather stations to provide real-time weather information. And this information is crucial for our staff as they develop a daily avalanche forecast, which tells people not only who might recreate, but also who work in basically snow-covered mountains and avalanche terrain, how to stay safe, how to avoid dangers, so that they can get their job done or go play whatever it might be that they're going to do. And so this real-time weather data is used by our forecast team to create those forecasts. We also do snowpack analysis using both physics-based models. So we are taking some of this real-time data and processing it into better understanding the snow, and also then using some machine learning models to understand what is going to happen over the next 24 or 48 hours. And it provides us with a lot of different challenges and problems. So as you can imagine, putting a weather station in a remote mountain environment, we need to figure out how to build them, how to support them, anything from how do we power them? So we can have 15 or more sensors on any given weather station to tell us random information or an assortment of information from temperature, humidity, wind speed, and wind direction. We look at snow depth. We look at the snow surface temperature. We look at incoming and outgoing long and shortwave radiation. So lots of different sensors that have to be powered in places without a power source. So we have to find this perfect match of highly durable sensors that can withstand these rugged environments, but also that are not too power hungry. So most of these stations are powered through a battery recharged with solar, but we could go 7, 10, or even more days without sun coming out during big storm periods. So you can't also just lug massive batteries. Some of these sites are a 4 or 5 hour walk from the nearest road, and so carrying a 30 or 40 kilo battery is really probably not an option. And so same with the size of the solar panels.
Sorry, on that note then, Chad, because you're mentioning, so this is kind of the maintenance of all of these things in these remote locations. How do you detect, and again, just kind of going back to statistics and industry figures, 60 to 80% of companies say they spend 60 to 80% of their time troubleshooting in a reactive mode. And with this, with your technology, all of the sophistication and all of the architecture, and all of these sensors need to be up and running pretty much 24/7. How do you make sure that these things are functioning and that you're predicting failures where there possibly might be something coming down the line?
So we're in an interesting time of moving very much from reactive to proactive. And so historically, it's been somebody gets up at 4 a.m. and they look at the weather station and realize, the temperature isn't reporting. And then we have to figure out, can we get to that station? How can we get to it? When can we get to it? It could be from the time somebody identifies this outage, it could be 6, 7, 8 hours to be able to get to these stations through driving, snowmobiles, skiing, and whatnot. So we're now moving towards more proactive, where we can detect sensors that are failing, sensors that have failed, or sensors that are reporting bad data as it's happening, and get alerts so that we don't get surprised, so that we can get those back online as quick as possible. And oftentimes it might require somebody to go to a site. You can imagine a wind sensor that is subjected to 100 to 150 kilometer per hour winds for days at a time. They tend not to have very good lifespans, and so they do take a lot of maintenance. So our goal is really to get to be proactive on understanding this. But it's challenged even more by how do we transmit our data? Many of these remote locations have no cell service, so we're using very old free wave technology to transmit data from one station to another to eventually have cell service, to then push data to a data warehouse that we can then poll for the actual service. So there's so many different steps on what can cause the failures that it's been a real challenge historically. So moving to more of this real-time proactive monitoring of sensors, and not only sensors, but also the data loggers, the cell modems, the freeway radios, will hopefully help us reduce these outages, or at least be aware of upcoming problems so that they can be addressed before it's a full outage. And it's a growing challenge, as we are seeing, like many industries, growth in our use. And so this information becomes even more important to get out into the user groups so that they have the information they need. In the end, people are using this information to make sort of life and death decisions of where is it safe and where is it not safe for them to be, not just recreating, but also people who work. You can think of the mining industries, utility companies. All of these groups are putting employees into these environments on a daily basis in the winter. And so it's a big part of employee safety as well as just public safety.
No. Again, I mean, this kind of follows on from the conversation we had with Aubrey in terms of public safety. I mean, you are providing an extremely valuable service here, and I know that. You spent 20 years in the consulting industry before you moved into this space. Can I just ask you kind of a personal question here, Chad? What prompted that move into what you're doing now?
I would say a passion for snow in the mountains. It was, as Bhupinder said, the tech consulting was a wonderful career, and I had a great opportunity to really pivot into really a way to give back to the community here where I live, but also turn my passion into a job of talking and thinking about snow and mountains every single day.
Well, thank you very much for the session and the information. There are a lot of questions coming through, and one of the questions that's coming through is about data collection, and how can you just move from data collection to to decision intelligence? And I think, Ruben, I'm going to turn this over to you, because you are an expert in terms of data and exactly the value that data brings. So please, if you can address that question, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Bhupinder. And actually, you have set up the stage so amazingly well with the right level of detail and right level of people here. Hi, everybody. My name is Ruban Kanapathippillai. I'm coming from the central of Earth, we call it, in Silicon Valley, for all the technologies, past, present, and the future. And I think as we speak, actually, I wanted to connect with the last speaker. So in California, one of the challenge we had faced was wildfire. It has been significantly disturbing from many fields, like human suffering and houses and all that. The other side of the biggest challenge was insurance cost. It has gone through the roof, and we have been having so much issues. Insurance companies are not able to do that. I was today morning reading the PG&E, that is our electric provider. So they have added over last 4 to 5 years so many sensors across all of these, because the vast land in California, it's very difficult to monitor by person and all that. So they started adding these sensors and looking for smoke, looking for heat, looking for wind, looking for all these characteristics. So you train on those information and you look at it live. What are the smoke signal coming out of it? And then, as the last speaker spoke about, proactively disposing firefighters, or even notifying the local community and all that. By doing those, they have been able to reduce. I mean, I have to be honest, last couple of years, other than couple of large fire in a small area, we haven't had many of those evacuation. I mean, like, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I got evacuated from my home because there was a fire. Now, I think before even come, I think people are there putting it away. So this is a simple example of how things can be helpful with, getting the data and doing proactive decision making by people. Actually, as I mentioned, when you have this large of land, you can't have enough people to do that. How do you train the machines to do those kind of identification and taking the false flags away and able to do that? So I think we have been able to do in a large scale for California on that. This is same thing applied for the water quality because of these monitoring. Because one of the area we have seen is from a COVID to other issues, there are so much information you can gather from the wastewater or sewage and all that. And again, how do you do this? Put sensors around it, put enough information on it, collect that. And I know we have been talking about security and part of it that is so key for making sure that you don't identify personal information or some of these private part of it, but as a collective community effort to look at currently Ebola is breaking out in Africa, and we had to be concerned about it. And people moving, people looking through the airport, migrating and all that. So if you look at it, I'm going to go into a little bit of the project SenseMate, because I'm part of SenseMate, where we do a lot of these technology development for different sectors. So if I look at it, one of them is we work with a partner who was doing this airport monitoring. So basically, they wanted to do some identification of people and move them through quickly. What we could add on that, one more thing is a temperature sensor on top of it. So that way, it identifies, is that average temperature of people or people are getting elevated? So there are potential for some kind of pandemic like situation. So those kind of things can be added to this system. So we have developed some of those. And then another project we worked on it, I'm going to go a little bit down to individual human level. One of the projects we have worked with a company called Yogo Health in US based, and they are worldwide company. What do they do is basically they have a product which can reconnect your brain cells with your muscles, because when you have surgery or when you have some kind of injury, you lose that connection. But you need to buy. There was science discovered about 50 years ago. You can reconnect that by training over time. So with my smaller devices, IoT like approach, you can monitor and retrain those, and establish that connection. So SenseMate had worked on helping. Mainly is like a physical therapy, but with a closed loop monitoring system where you have vision as well as you have monitoring of the vibration of the muscles moving up and down. So that is one of those area. And then you look at it, if you look at the industrial area. So let me go back a little bit on what are the, when you look about the senses, we have 5 senses. So some of them are like vision, which is you see things and based on that you can make decision, or you can touch and you can make decision based on that, or you can hear and you can make decision on that. All these 5 senses you talk about, this is a similar thing. You look at different part of it. The vision is a successful from a discovery point of view. If you look at so going back to in Silicon Valley, how AI became prominent was the first part was vision. Actually, people used to look at different images and say, is it a monkey? Is it a banana? Is it a different thing? And they used to do that. I don't know if you remember, Bhupinder.
Well, I do. And I think one of the things I could certainly use the Jogo Health. My brain certainly needs to be rewired, Ruben. So I think I might reach out to you. I was going to say that I think you need to be talking with Aubrey because we're talking about the temperature and the elevated temperature. I mean, he has got an innovative product which he developed during the COVID era. And I think maybe there's some sort of synergies that we can start talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, these are the things which, the important part of it is there is security issues, there are challenges, but I look at from, what we see is going to help our, as a humanity improve our, because, we are getting a lot of old, people are getting older. How do you manage their care and how do you look at it? And these IoT devices are the pathway to get them because they are lonely, they are not able to get help, and preemptively, like one of the area which we have worked on it is looking at the behavior of the people. Like normally the elder people regularly do the same thing again and again and all that. When they go off the script, you can identify that. I mean, just to notify their care thing. Oh, he didn't take the medicine today, or he didn't drink enough water today. He didn't do she didn't do, go to the bowl, bathroom enough times, because this is an indication of, proactively giving them information rather than reactively after somebody fall down, somebody faint, somebody, do that. That is the most important part of it.
I think so. And I think this is absolutely, I think it's a value proposition. What exactly is the value that AI and IoT and AIoT are offering, and how can we actually harvest that value? And I'm going to turn over to Alan. So thank you very much for that, Ruben. But I think if there are some questions that we need to answer, that we will need to answer at the end of this session. But Alan, I mean, one of the questions that has come up, and I think you're in exactly the right spot to answer it, is misconceptions about enterprise. Enterprise still have about AI and machine learning for operations, and what is this? Are we seeing a shift from just static? Well, I might say not static because there are a lot of us proactive and real-time dashboards and alerts towards automated operational workflows. So this kind of sits right into the middle of your area of expertise. But so could you talk about that kind of the stages in the customer journey, and also in terms of how things are being automated and are they being automated correctly?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things happen just in the last 6 months, right? So we are seeing AI being implemented at a breakneck pace. We're also seeing security issues at a breakneck pace, right? So our security and our proactive monitoring and support of IoT devices, along with standard IT devices, need to move at the speed of machines, not at the speed of people. Right. So the detection and the regulations and the amount of security that we have to have around these devices are important. It also is very important for you to understand that if you embrace IoT and the monitoring and support and securing those devices. You can, as Ruban and Aubrey and Christopher all mentioned, the improvement in your customer experience, in your patient's experience, in your employee's experience can be dramatically increased, and you can provide service ahead and above your competition. So it's a matter of, first of all, just kind of embracing the fact that regulations are changing, security is needed. We need to be proactive when we're monitoring and supporting all these devices that are out there. I think also, if you think about it in terms of retail, for everything from monitoring refrigerator temperatures to food spoilage to humidity and those types of things, or you're in the healthcare and you're monitoring, patients' health or the comfort of their bed, or what the room temperature is, or if you're in banking and financial services and you're trying to interact with your customers via kiosks or other devices that you may deploy for maybe like bank in a box, those types of things are pretty important. And of course, the manufacturers, they're kind of leading the charge with IoT devices and manufacturing solutions from start to finish, right? Trying to automate and do manufacturing. The laws that are out there are some severe penalties for folks that aren't monitoring and managing IoT and standard IT devices, right? We heard mentioned earlier a little bit about Martin's Law and being able to comply with that to direct people in case of a terrorist attack or unsafe conditions. But also, just as a standard, the new Cyber Resiliency Act that's coming out of Europe, this September, you have to be able to monitor and report vulnerabilities on all of your IT and IoT devices. And if you don't have that ability, you're going to be seen as non-compliant, right? And that could be a significant fine in the millions of dollars for your company or a high percentage of your worldwide revenue. So when you look at these things and you think about it, you can kind of look at it two ways. You can look at it in terms of, what am I going to do for my customer? What am I going to do for my end user? How am I going to automate my processes? Or you can look at it in terms of just the IT side of it and monitoring and support of that, right? Moving forward. So you're really better off to take an inventory and do discovery of your IoT devices to find out what smart devices you have hanging on your network. And also realize the fact that, and we have the tools and the processes to come in and help you with that if you need help. And there are, it's the ability to look on the network and see what's there and what is connected, right? And to do that worldwide. That's a big process. And then there's also a physical process of going through your buildings and your following the path of your customer experience to determine what are things that I can do to improve my customer experience, and what are the IoT devices maybe I have that aren't even connected to the network that I should be collecting data from and potentially improving the customer experience. So think of it in terms of we have to use AI to respond quickly and to, it's the days of folks sitting in front of monitors and watching screens for alerts is, fading quickly, right? So what's going to happen is we have to have the AI and the automation. We have to be able to look at video to determine things that are happening, fights or things that might be breaking out. And then we ultimately have to look at our solutions that we're offering and try to stay ahead of our competition. So when we do that, we have to comply with the DORA standard for financial services, as an example, or the CRA laws regarding smart devices, network equipment, even the consumer devices, right? So if you're a manufacturer of an IoT or an IT device, you have to now create the ability to patch and monitor and support your devices, right? Otherwise, you're going to be seen as liable if you put a device out that is not able to be patched. We saw from Device Authority at the beginning, them talking about the fact that we have to be able to put certificates on IoT devices and we have to be able to patch them and support them remotely. And if you're in a critical industry like healthcare or banking or a government, you have to be able to potentially change those certificates every 30 days, right?
So, Alan, just a question that is coming up is in terms of the kind of industry direction, where do you see kind of the fastest AIoT adoption? And I mean, is it just people are adopting it because it's in vogue, or are they actually saying there's going to be a business outcome and there's business value? So, in your experience, where do you see the uptake of IoT?
Well, I think that it ultimately comes back to, in most cases, it comes back to a return on investment, right? So people naturally look towards adopting IoT and things of that nature in terms of what is my return on investment? Can I monitor and support it? What can I do with it to help improve my customer or my end user experience? Those are the areas that we're seeing move the fastest because the business cases are behind those. So it's not just a cloud adoption or, when we went through the cloud era and that kind of thing, people are really looking very hard at what is my return on investment and what's it going to cost me? And they're also a little bit afraid of running up a bunch of costs and not really getting the business outcome that they want. So people are naturally looking at business outcomes and they're naturally looking at return on investment, which is, a standard thing. I don't think that's shocking.
Wonderful, Alan. Thank you very much for that, because I just want to make sure that we have time for some questions from the audience. So let's just open up the live Q&A and take it from there. Well, let me just read there's a couple of questions that I will. So this is again around the data collection and the data quality pieces. So Ruben, I mean, you mentioned that you mentioned data quality. How are companies really ensuring? I mean, is there a data officer? I mean, how do you guarantee that the quality of the data and the information is going to be sufficient, is clean enough for AI and AIoT to ingest and act upon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting part of it. Actually, I come from a telco background and telco area, many decades ago. This was the challenge always been, because if you look at it, the audio communication as well as in the worldwide, there are so much data which are not, yes, the mundane data, like, yes, the no interest, no part of it, maybe 99% or 90+% of the data is not important, but that is going to consume so much energy and so much part of it. And then you have the interesting part of the data. So this is where you had to look at it from a two part of it. One of them is that is where you started looking at this behavior of the data and training and information from the AI, the autonomous part of it. You have that information, and with our past behavior, you use, put some of the workflows, some of them to weed out the, unnecessary or bad data versus the good data in an autonomous way. The second part of it, I always tell people, AI is going to change the world and all that. Still, you need to have human in the loop. Without human, you are not able to go, you are not going to make progress, because what normally AI does is our past behavior, past decision making, and it trains on that. It gives you information to, quickly and, in a vast data. But the other side of it is the human intelligence, where we tend to think out of the box. We tend to think not just pattern matching, but the foundational technologies and all that. So that is where you come, hands in hand together. I mean, I was looking at Martin's product or the chat's experience with all this. I mean, if you just throw this data and say, go and figure out how to, predict an avalanche in a snow thing, it could do that. But the people who are expert, who are passionate, who know these kind of things, they know what area to at least focus. And then you bring so by doing that, from the AI point of view, the energy consumption and wastage and all things can be reduced. And the other side is, more relevant, more validated, more information can be. So it's important for us to go through the data, the quality of the data, by adding preemptive data processing engine, which can be AI based or human in input based, to reduce that noise and improve that.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna ask the same question to Chad, because there must be humongous amounts of data that you're gathering from your senses. So Chad, can you just talk about kind of the balance between the human and the AI, and exactly how the interaction is between the two parties? I mean, is it conflicting? I mean, I'm assuming that you need to be totally unified especially in your predictions and what the data that you're gathering. So what's the mix? I mean, human in the loop and the AI, and what exactly are you doing there?
Today, the AI is working for us more as a decision support. So the human is evaluating the data themselves at first, and then they're looking towards the machine to validate their comprehension of it and look for gaps. So what might have they missed? So little tiny, in essence, micro changes that the human might have missed as they looked at the past 24 or 48 hours of data. The machine can pick that up and sort of alert them of, did you consider this? So it's really a checks and balance system to help improve that output. And I think we're in a very rapidly changing time. And so I think we're going to see this progress over the next couple of years to where, rather than just decision support, it becomes part of the core decision process as well. But it's sort of a industry that's slow to change. And so introducing these new technologies kind of slowly is important, and making sure that they're correct is important. So as we all know, if the data we provide through the machine is inaccurate or doesn't make sense, then the people are less likely to trust it. And so it's important for us to keep that trust from the data side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that, Chad. Question for you, Julio, because this is around the automated operational workflows, because again, it's people want to move from just dashboards and alerting to something which is going to be much more proactive, and it's going to provide over the air. So how does the device authority in your experience, how do your models learn that this is the right thing to do, and how do they integrate into formal frameworks such as ITSM and ITIL? So can you just give us a little bit of background, kind of info on that?
Yes, in terms of automation for device security, we are in between, as you know, that device, the physical thing, and the application layer. So we are constantly monitoring the behavior of the device. For example, what time is the device connecting to the network? What policies are attached to the device? And is this behavior mapping the profile that we already learned and created over time? So if that device deviates, that's where we can raise alarms, and also even apply rules that automatically can shut down the device and restrict the access. So again, everything is tied back to policies, and those policies are derivations from the security frameworks that you mentioned. Sometimes we apply security policies based on our customers' internal policies, which could be very specific to use cases, and sometimes are tied to contracts. One of the things that our customers always tell us is, how can I comply to my customer specific requirements and align that to the security framework? So that's where we can come with our solution and tie everything together by knowing the device, applying policies, and also bringing AI to do the monitoring, detecting anomalies, and also taking action if that device deviates from what we think this is the right profile and these are the things that this device should be doing. Okay. Another thing I would like to mention is about data quality. So from the cybersecurity perspective, we see this as a device trust issue. So if you don't trust the device, the data that may be coming from that device won't be valuable for those AI systems and applications that are consuming the data. So that's something that should be considered. In addition to the quality of the data, is the trust, right? So is that data coming from a trusted source? Is it something that we should actually process even before we generate these insights or intelligence that coming from this information being generated at the edge?
Okay, well, thank you for that. So, Aubrey, I just want to turn to you as well, in terms of machine learning and let's say the injection of AI into your solution, especially when it comes to public safety. And we need to make sure that everything has been ticked, and there's a lot of boxes that actually do need to be ticked. So, how are you ensuring that your system is continuously learning and being fed all of the latest regulations so that you can do the right thing when the situation arises?
Yeah,
Okay.
our machine learning. Oh, sorry.
I think that's my question, I believe, isn't it?
Sorry, that's for Aubrey, yes.
Our development team are looking at AI and ways to use AI. We don't want to go absolutely overboard at this stage with AI, because we see so much of it at the moment. I think it's just a rush to include in the marketing statistics that you have AI as part of the solution. AI to us, I think, has a part to play. Certainly in doing anything where we're spoken word. So we're trying a system here at the moment where we do analog text, speech to text, and then from text to then AI to interpret what's been said to actually pick out the key trigger points, and that is to identify threat, location, and how many people. So if a man turns up at the reception with a gun, it's a single man, it's in the reception, and the threat is a gun. And that's it. That's sufficient for an action to then be issued. And the person of authority that then has to verify that then knows this is an incident. Let's not waste time. Press the button. Wasting time, that's where body count could get high. We need to be as quick as possible to actually give and save lives.
Thank you for that, Aubrey. And we are coming to the top of the hour, so this is pretty much we're going to be just finishing. So let me just first of all say thank you to everyone who's joined us on this session, this webinar. And I do want to plug SenseMate as well, because Ruban mentioned that he's been working with SenseMate, and I'm going to say for a very long time, Ruban. So pretty much kind of the father of SenseMate in a sense. And you talked about a couple of platforms as well, and I do want to talk about specifically. And again, this is related to the question about automated operational workflows, and so this is specifically around the device pulse of AI. So do you want to say something about the device pulse and the Sensematica, Ruban?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Bhupinder, for giving the opportunity, and everybody. Thank you for joining this, worldwide team of that knowledge base. And we have been having this kind of webinar for the SenseMate for last 2.5 years. We have done more than 50 sessions in the different sectors. And this is the 9th one in the IoT section part of it. And that thanks, Bhupinder, for your leadership, and you have been bringing a lot of knowledge. And what at SenseMate what we do is, we have a platform called Sensematica, which is a basic platform where you can take many different kind of input, data sources, data section, data like documents, and then run it through processing side of it. Then we have a great team of 170 engineers who have LLM, AI, generative AI knowledge base, and then you have the vision part of it. So if you look at so that is our foundational platform, which is an open source. Actually, we provide that one to anybody who wants to use that one. But what we have done with the device pulse is able to, I think Bhupinder started with that 3 phases of it: discovery, and then you sensing it, and then you do decision making based on that information. So what this platform and the device pulse we have done is basically monitoring your IoT devices in your IT department or in the field or in the industries. We can take that information and onboard those different like thousands of devices or millions of devices so easily into that platform, and then continue to monitor that information with cloud services to collect that relevant information. Again, that is another part of it, because when you have millions of devices, you have a lot of, I don't want to say it, but it's a garbage data coming in. So you need to weed out the good from the bad, because you don't want to spend so much money storing this bad data. And then you go and make the decision making and getting a dashboard of information. And now with generative AI, you can create workflow with agentic work, part of it. So we have created that overall end-to-end platform. So it is easily we can provide to anybody who has enough devices. They can license it, and we will monitor, we will run all of those for you. And basically it's like a subscription model approach. And please, I think we have done so many of these, and it is led by Bhupinder from a thought leadership, and Alan has helped also significantly on how to get this one. So anyone in this audience or anyone who will listen to this one is looking for some kind of platform to get these IoT devices and understood, we call it device pulse. Basically, it learns the pulse of your device and able to provide you the value and intelligence and information. So reach out to us, and we will be very happy to help you with your journey and bring value to you by using this kind of platform.
Thank you very much for those closing remarks, Ruben. I just want to say a big thank you to all the panelists. I mean, you have provided a wealth of information and expertise. And just to reiterate what Ruben was saying, if there is anything that anyone from the audience wants to, any question that we haven't answered, if there's any information that you want about IoT device management, the journey that a customer makes, please do reach out, and we will do our best to help you. And so it's not just in IoT, but also we are expanding the device pulse into IT itself as well, with the help of people like the Device Authority and our good friend Aubrey as well. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for attending. And we will keep you updated in terms of the next webinar in the series. So thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.